Hello, welcome back to Conversations with NAACP. My name is Damiana Dendy, and this week we're going to be talking about hair. So we're going to be talking about hairstyles, hair types, asking people about what their daily routines are, and you're going to learn lots about hair.
One thing I just want to open the floor to is talking about black hair. It's a question that's a little debated nowadays, especially with the natural hair movement, and people sometimes don't realize the questions they ask and how they're asked are very hurtful at times. We understand people are usually coming from a great place out of curiosity. However, I'm not a spectacle, nor am I a pet where you can just come up and touch me.
I am not a big fan of when people just walk up and start touching it or playing with it, especially if they don't know me.
People don't like to be touched if you don't know them.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's the big one.
yeah,
for
that's
me.
it's kind of weird if someone just like touches your. I mean, like, would you want someone just to come up to you and just pet you? That's like weird.
People will come up and touch my hair regardless of what it looks like. So without asking, they'll just walk up, rub the head, or try to like grab it and say like, this is some nice hair, which is just really off-putting since one, you didn't really ask me to touch my hair, and two, I kind of set it a certain way in the morning and I don't like it to get messed up.
I think the best thing to know is just to not interrupt somebody's personal space, because I mean, like, one of the things, like, don't touch my hair, because when it's you're getting into my personal space, but also you're probably messing my hair up. I've been told, like, oh, I got twists, and somebody called me like an African goddess, and I was like, don't do that, don't put me into this, that's not my identity, stop.
Freshman year, I had Senegalese twists, and there's like braids kind of with weave. And so when I cut my braids out and took my natural hair out, this one girl was like, oh my gosh, I love your haircut. And I'm trying to explain to her, I was like, it's not a haircut. Like, I didn't get a haircut. She's like, no, oh my gosh, like, I love your haircut. And she kept cutting me off. It seems like some people don't even care to understand. And like, they want to have their opinions about it, but they're ignorant of it. And so in a way to mask that ignorance, they're just like going to cut you off and don't want to hear your experiences.
Well, one thing I've always noticed is people who aren't used to seeing my type, my natural hair, not a weave or anything or a wig. They're always like, "Oh wow, your hair is so soft," or "Oh my gosh, it's so fluffy." And it's kind of just well, I can look at your hair and say, "Wow, it's so stringy," but I don't do that.
Yeah, I think for me when it comes to microaggressions, I remember specifically last year I decided to let my hair just do what it wants. Sort of keep the sides nice and clean and neat, but the top just let it be free and run wild and stuff. And I just remember so many of my non-black friends were like, oh, your hair looks interesting, looks a little, did you want to comb it out maybe? And I was just sort of well, this is the way it naturally grows.
Right.
I want it to be this way specifically.
I big chopped, so I cut all my relaxed hair off. I had a relaxer all my entire life, and I cut it off the senior year of high school. And so I think that's the first time I kind of realized that there's this weird thing about hair that goes with race, that straight hair is obviously preferred, and that's when I started really learning about it.
Sometimes people will say, oh, your hair would look so pretty if you straightened it. Kind of makes me feel like, hey, what's wrong with the way my hair naturally is? Why do I have to straighten it?
It's nice to see that the natural hair movement is very large, and for those of you who aren't aware of it, most women, or most African American women, especially, up till the early 2000s, were told that their hair was unruly, unprofessional, and this even goes for Caucasian women as well, or anyone who has curly hair in general. It's considered unruly and not alright for a professional environment. It's been empowering to see that more and more women are just accepting what grows out of their head.
I know for me when it comes to the natural hair movement, it does make me kind of uncomfortable that it's coming out of this place from opposing how white people view natural hair. It's centering the white gaze and sort of saying, well, we're going to reclaim our hair. But I do appreciate that we're appreciating our hair, appreciating its diversity, its texture, its movement, its vibrancy.
I think it's twofold, because I think it's good that people should embrace what they naturally have and should be okay, I'm happy with this.
I'm down for team natural, really admiring our hair in its natural form and not feeling that we need to change anything about our hair. So.
But I think it's good because I think there's a side of it that growing up I had no examples of natural hair that were positive in my life. And so to be a young girl now and to be taught now through the natural hair movement that your hair is something you can pride yourself on and that it's not bad, black hair is not bad, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. I think that's such a positive thing that I could have used when I was 10, 13 and all I wanted was pin straight hair.
A lot of hairstyles that people with African American hair do sometimes, it just makes it more convenient for them, and it's not always like, oh, I want to look completely different. It's just more like convenient.
Like people who get like what's it called, Brazilian blowouts, who like permanently straighten their hair. It's the same concept. I mean,
For instance, like people like Beyonce, Rihanna in media who are wearing like, and Nicki Minaj who are just wearing wigs, you know, nice, pretty blonde wigs, and you're kind of just like, wow, that's what a black person is. That's the way how the media wants to portray black people as.
The biggest problem that I have right now is the appropriation of black hair in like fashion. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. You're not going to be able to appreciate this culture if you're just borrowing from it this something that you think is cool. It's not appropriate. It's not respectful.
Let's say you have a question about why my hair looks a certain way. You could ask like, oh, like it looks nice. How did you do it? Like, it looks great, instead of being like, whoa, it is so voluminous and large and curly and overwhelming. That can sound a little attacky, and in a way can be considered a microaggression where you are not intending to be offensive or intending to be disrespectful, but your questions can make someone feel very uncomfortable.
And like, and if you have a question, like, just like think about it before you ask it. Like, would you want someone to ask you like, have you ever washed your hair? Like, that's weird.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with people asking me, oh, like, how what styles do you do to your hair? Like, how often do you, like, ask me general educational questions about my hair?
To approach it with, like, a knowledge of your own ignorance, I think is good. To be like, I don't know anything about, you know, black hair, and I think it's really interesting. Your hair is really beautiful. How did you do that? I think is good.
Be aware of your words and how those words can really impact what your question is understood.
I think, you know, just asking or starting a conversation, walking up, saying, hey, I really like what you did with your hair this time. Could you tell me a bit about it?
Thanks for watching this week's episode. I hope you learned a lot about hair that you didn't previously know about. And if you missed the first episode, be sure to check the link in the description. See you next time!